Good evening. It is 6 p.m. I'd like to call this meeting to order. We'll start with the invocation by Councilman Roberto, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Councilwoman Ryder. Please stand if you're able.
Tonight, we gather in a time when our faith needs your reassurance and your healing touch. We ask for guidance as we seek to set aside our differences and work together. Lift up our community and lead us away from ugliness of division and hate. Fill our hearts with the same love for our neighbors as we have for our own family and friends. Let your Spirit move across our city and into our hearts as we turn towards your loving grace. Grant us wisdom and patience in our deliberations tonight, so that our actions may be worthy of your continued blessings. Amen.
Face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Please call the roll.
Councilwoman Fugit.
Here.
Councilwoman Helsley.
Here.
Councilwoman McKenzie.
Here.
Councilwoman Parker. Councilwoman Ryder.
Here.
Councilman Roberto.
Here.
Councilwoman Singh. Vice Mayor Smith.
Here.
And Councilman Thomas. 8 members present, Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Next is the approval of minutes from our last meeting. Is there a motion on the minutes?
Move to approve.
A motion and second was made. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Are there any items to be withdrawn? Okay, seeing none. Are there any items to be postponed? Councilman Roberto.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. At the request of all parties involved, I'm going to make a motion to postpone items 12G, 12H, and 12I to Council's meeting on July 9th.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Motion and a second. Any questions or discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Councilman Thomas.
Yes, Mayor. Also, by agreement, I'd like to move to postpone 12D, E, and F, and also 4 weeks till July 9th.
4
Thank you.
weeks.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any questions or discussion? All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Okay, the items have been postponed. Any other items for postponement? All right. Are there any items to be added? Okay, moving along. Are there any motions on the consent items?
Move to approve.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion or questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. All right, good evening. Time now for the mayor's report. And as you can see, Mayor Kincannon is not here, but she gave me some remarks that she wanted the public to be aware of. She asked me to thank everyone who helped make the first Kiderific a huge success. These are completely free events that offer crafts, food, music, and family-friendly activities on Wednesdays throughout the entire summer. This week, Kiderific will be at Chilhowie Park. The fun kicks off Wednesday at 10 a.m. and goes until 1 p.m. Also, be sure to mark your calendars for the following Wednesday, which is June 19th. The city offices are closed for the Juneteenth holiday, but you will find many of us taking part, including I know council members will be there, taking part in the MLK Junior Parade and Juneteenth celebration. Step off is at 10 a.m. at Chilhowie Park. A quick reminder, rules of decorum. Those who wish to speak tonight, either to a specific agenda item or during public forum, should sign up with the city recorder before 4 p.m. Council rules state that up to 3 people may speak for each item against or for. Robert's Rules of Order state that remarks must be germane to the discussion of the question ahead of the assembly. That is, statements must be bearing whether the pending motion should be adopted. Those who fail to adhere to these rules may be ruled out of order and asked to step away from the podium. For those who are listening, please note that you may not disrupt a public meeting from the audience. Those who may be asked to leave. I appreciate everyone's respect in advance of these rules. Are there any reports from council members? Councilwoman McKenzie.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Just want to invite everyone to come out for additional Juneteenth activities on Wednesday, June the 19th. The Beck Cultural Exchange Center will be having a lot of tours, exhibits, and activities starting at 10 a.m. until 4 p.m. And starting at 4 p.m., the Tennessee Black Caucus of State Legislators will be having a community town hall with valuing the voice of our young adults. That will be at 4 o'clock, and everyone's invited to attend. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other reports? Councilmember Roberto.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I just wanted to briefly mention that the 2023 Knox County Regional Forensic Center's annual report revealed an alarming 35% increase in car accident deaths in Knox County. We went from 100 in 2022 to a heartbreaking 135 in 2023. Even more disturbing was that 64% of those involved drug or alcohol impairment. I've been struck with each time I've heard a report of these since that report came out, but as also since we dealt with Kylie's tragic passing. The people that were discussed, or the statistics that we're talking about, those are actual people. Those are our moms, our dads, our brothers, our sisters, our sons and our daughters that we've lost. And I just wanted to highlight that because we really need to make sure we're doing more to prioritize safety on our roads and reduce distracted and impaired driving. That's something that, you know, the city has a role in, but we need to engage our county partners in as well to make sure everyone's safe and everyone can get home using our roads. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other reports? I'll just add one. Council will host a workshop next Thursday, the 20th, at 5 p.m. here in the main assembly room about development incentives, including TIFs, pilots, and other tools. The public is welcome to attend or watch from home. And now we will proceed with item A, 8A.
8A is a resolution confirming the mayor's nomination to reappoint Karen Adams and to appoint Nick Gill, all contingent on state approval, to the Knox County Planning Commission, formerly known as the Metropolitan Planning Commission.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Are there any discussion among council members? Councilman Roberto?
Oh, no, sorry.
Okay. New infrastructure. Any other comments? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
8B is a resolution confirming the reappointment of Andrea Kupfer to serve as the Knox County Planning Representative to the City of Knoxville Public Property Naming Committee.
Move to approve.
We have a motion and second. Any discussion or questions? All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
9A is an ordinance to approve and adopt the fiscal year 2025-2030 Knoxville Capital Improvements Program, including the fiscal year 2025 capital improvements budget, City of Knoxville applicant, all districts.
Move to approve.
A first and a second. Any discussion or questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
9B is an ordinance approving the request of Homestead Land Holdings LLC for an amendment to the Northwest City Sector Plan from low-density residential to medium-density residential office for property located at 0 Broom Road and at 7700 and 7708 Middlebrook Pike, 2nd District.
Move to approve.
Motion and a second. Any discussion or questions? All those in, Councilman Roberto.
I'd just like to combine items 9B, 9C, and 9D.
9B, 9C, and 9D without objection. Is there an objection? Without objection, those items are combined.
And I'll make a motion to approve, which I think was already seconded, so if there's no other discussion, we can vote.
Okay. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
9E is an ordinance approving the request of BIR Investments LLC for an amendment to the Central City Sector Plan from light industrial to heavy industrial for a portion of property located at 2635 Western Avenue, 5th District.
Yes, Vice Mayor, I'd like a motion to consolidate E, F, and G as they are dealing with the same parcel.
Thank you, Councilman Thomas. Okay, second. Any objection? If not, those items are consolidated. We've had a motion and a second. I'm sorry. We have a motion on the consolidated items.
To approve.
Oh. What's that? Oh, okay, so the motion is good on the consolidated
Yes.
items? Okay, all right. Yes, and I will move to approve the items.
Thank you. A motion and a second. Any comments or questions? We'll blame the infrastructure again. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it.
11A is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute any and all documents to award a total amount not to exceed $150,000 in African American Equity Restoration Task Force investment grants to support programming to 18 community-based organizations in the city.
Move to approve.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. I think we have some speakers signed up for this item. We have one speaker signed up in favor of the item and one opposed. When we call your name, if you could come forward to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and you'd have up to 5 minutes on the item. So first up, Ms. Tanisha Baker.
All right, greetings, Tanisha Baker, 1036 Pleasant Knoll Avenue, Knoxville, Tennessee, 37915. And so I want to start by saying that it has been my honor, it is my honor to serve as the chair of the African American Equity Restoration Task Force and to walk alongside those of you who believe everybody has value, all citizens here. And when I thought about this and our desire for better, recognizing that a better me, a better you, a better them is a better all. And so when we take apart our mission under the umbrella of equity and restoration, we know that equity is attending to specific needs. And so I'll get to that with the grants. But we talk about restoration in giving back or making whole. So when we restore, we provide opportunities and access to restore dignity and hope. When we got near, as many of us, the end of the fiscal year, looking at what we have in our budget, we decided to try to diversify that disbursement among those who are meeting needs in the community. So we worked with the city to pull together a grant application as well as a rubric so we could fairly assess the work that's being done along with the impact. And what we would ask of you today is to approve that investment. We, wanted to acknowledge those that are spending time, talent, and treasures in investing in the community, but also hopefully to springboard additional investments and let them know that their work matters and that it's appreciated and that we hope to continue these efforts moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Baker. Speaker signed up in opposition to the item, Andy Fox. Mr. Fox, if you'd come forward, state your name and address for the record. Is Andy Fox here? Okay. Council, that's all the speakers that have signed up thus far. Councilwoman McKenzie.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I want to acknowledge that I am a member of the task force. It is a volunteer committee. Therefore, I will be voting on this item. And I also want to state that I don't serve on the investment committee, so I was not intimately engaged with the applicants and who applied. Found out just like everyone else did once that selection was done. I also want to take a moment to thank the nonprofit organizations who applied for the grant. It's my understanding that there were 40 applicants for this grant. They all are doing really, really great work. And even though not those that were not selected, I would encourage them when there are additional opportunities to please reapply again. Those that are listed for council approval, if there's anyone in attendance this evening from any of those nonprofits, would you please raise your hand or stand to be recognized? Thank you for the work that you're doing and the impact that you're making in the community. We really appreciate that. And then I want to say to the members of the task force, for the amount of time and effort and energy that goes into this work, it is truly a labor of love and compassion for restoration, for urban renewal, and the communities that were impacted. I just want to share with you that no one said the road would be easy. No one ever said the journey would not come without opposition or distractions. But for the greater good, stay focused, for the road you are on will lead to restoration. And I want to thank you for your service. If you're a member of the task force and you're here, could you please stand? Are there any members here today? All right, thank you all. I just want to applaud your efforts.
Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
11B is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with PRI of East Tennessee Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $177,747.50 for the 2024 citywide facilities paving project.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any comments? Councilwoman Ryder.
Yeah, just wanted to ask Mr. Claybo, is this the full amount? Are there additional monies? That's really a budget question, but just for the public's understanding, what is the total amount for paving each year? Like,
That amount varies. I think after this contract is taken out, we still have about $500,000 in that CIP line item.
okay, all right, thank you.
Any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
11C is a resolution authorizing the mayor to amend the contract with Ecosystem Planning and Restoration LLC to provide additional professional engineering services for the Mary Vestal Park Stream Bank Restoration Project, increasing the contract amount by $59,120 for a new contract total of $165,901.75.
Move to approve.
Motion and a second. Any discussion, questions? All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
11D is a resolution supplementing resolution number 1644, adopted by the City Council of the City of Knoxville, Tennessee on January 4, 1949, entitled "A Resolution Providing for the Issuance of Electric System Revenue Bonds so as to provide for the issuance of not to exceed $91 million and no dollars of Electric System Revenue Bonds, Series QQ 2024.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion? I'm told that for this item, we need a roll call vote, so Mr. Johnson, if you would do so.
Councilwoman Fugit? Councilwoman Helsley? Councilwoman McKenzie?
Yes.
Councilwoman Ryder?
Here, yes.
Councilman Roberto?
Yes.
Councilwoman Singh? Vice Mayor Smith?
Yes.
And Councilman Thomas? 8 in favor.
Thank you. Any opposed? Motion carries.
11E is a resolution supplementing Resolution 2075, adopted by the City Council of the City of Knoxville, Tennessee on April 20, 1954, entitled "A Resolution Providing for the Issuance of Water Revenue Bonds so as to provide for the issuance of not to exceed $20 million of Water System Revenue Bonds, Series 00 2024.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion, questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Roll call.
Oh, excuse me. Yeah, roll call vote for this one as well. Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Councilwoman Fugit? Yes. Councilwoman Helsley? Councilwoman McKenzie?
Yes.
Councilwoman Ryder?
Yes.
Councilman Roberto?
Yes.
Councilwoman Singh? Vice Mayor Smith?
Yes.
And Councilman Thomas? 8 in favor.
Motion carries.
11F is a resolution authorizing the submission of the 2024-2025 Annual Action Plan to the 5-year Consolidated Plan for Housing and Community Development to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, and authorizing the mayor to execute any required documents under the Community Development Block Grant, Home Investment Partnerships Act, and Emergency Solutions Grant programs.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion or questions? Councilwoman Fugit.
Thank you. Since E, F, G, H, I are all, and J are all related, I just wondered if Mr. DeBose could, I'm not saying that we combine them, just like a little overview of the plan and how all these following pieces are a part and how they connect with the plan that we're submitting. Where are you?
Thank you. I'm right here.
Where? Oh, I can't, I'm not
Kev-
tall enough anymore.
Kevin DuBose, Housing and Neighborhood Development. As was mentioned, we have 6 items on the agenda tonight. It kind of shows our department's work in the items tonight. We have 4 goals, really: keep people housed, build more housing, transform blighted property, and promote housing equity. And tonight on the agenda is our plan, our annual action plan that sort of describes how we will spend our federal funds. But the big idea there is to keep folks housed. 91% of that money goes to housing stability work, keeping folks from being homeless, but also some support for homeless serving agencies. And then there's 4 contracts on the agenda as well, 2 for VMC and 1 for Catholic Charities and for YWCA. And then we have a homemakers project, and it's in a difficult piece of property that's been on our list for 20 years, and we finally have a successful applicant on that. So that is a brief synopsis of those items. The first item, the plan, the author of the plan is Linda Russ, our Community Development Administrator, who works very hard on that budget and plan every year. She's here if you have any specific questions.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
11G is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with Volunteer Ministry Center Incorporated to provide an amount not to exceed $94,917 in emergency solution grant funds, and homeless general funds for the provision of emergency shelter services to approximately 205 individuals through its dental clinic and resource center.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
11H is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with Catholic Charities of East Tennessee to provide an amount not to exceed $30,000 for the provision of emergency shelter services through Samaritan Place.
Motion and a second. Any discussion or questions? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
11I is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with Volunteer Ministry Center Incorporated to provide for 2 street outreach social workers to work with the unsheltered homeless population in order to connect individuals with shelter, housing, and social services in an amount not to exceed $175,008.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments? Councilwoman McKenzie.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Just want to, I don't know if there's anyone here from VMC today. If you could come to the podium, please. Hi.
I am Gabe Klein, 511 North Broadway.
Thank you. Just wanted to ask, so this amount is to staff 2 social outreach social workers. I know that in the past there have been some social work outreach. Has this been the going rate, or is this salary rate an increase, or is this?
The salary rate stays the same. There are, of course, other things included in that.
Okay,
Ability to buy IDs and things like that to help people get into housing.
okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
Councilwoman Ryder.
Yeah, I'm not sure if this is a question for VMC or Mr. DuBose or somebody else. So this contract that we're approving is to fund 2 positions at VMC. How many total do we have? Well, I think at one time we had 6 social workers. Like, CAC had 2 doing street outreach. VMC, maybe you guys had 4 total. I don't know, what collectively, I think we were up to 10, I'm sorry, I misspoke.
I can speak to VMC's staffing. We have 5.
Okay, you're up to
total.
5. How historically,
We had 6 at one point.
you had 6 at your high point? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you so much. Mr. DeBose, do you,
Yes.
I cannot see you, this is so weird.
I'm not used to not being seen.
Hi,
I'll have to get back with you
Okay.
on the total. I don't want to misspeak on that. I'll get back to you.
okay, that would be great, because I know at one point early when I was on council, we got up to 9 total that the city was funding, and then there was 10 total because the county was funding 1. And it's possible things have changed because that was before the joint office on housing.
Right.
So I just wondered where we stood and who all and how many there are.
I'll get you that information.
Okay, I appreciate it, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
11J is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with YWCA Knoxville and Tennessee Valley to provide, and I think that's of the Tennessee Valley, to provide an amount not to exceed $45,000 for transitional housing through its Keys of Hope program.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion or questions? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
11K is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a quitclaim deed to DCS Realty LLC for 1 parcel of property located at 716 Fern Street, parcel ID number 082EF023, within the limits of the city of Knoxville pursuant to the Homemakers Program for a contract sales price of $3,000.
Move to approve.
Have a motion and a second. See some lights on. We'll go with Councilwoman Helsley.
Actually, I just wanted to, I hear a lot that the city doesn't do a lot to help unhoused people, and I just invite anybody home that has told me that, and I know there's a few, to please go back and read items 12F through K and see exactly how much investment the city does to help homeless people. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Ryder.
Yeah, so I don't know who's here to speak on homemakers. Maybe it's you, Mr. DeBose. I can see the top of your head.
Okay, I'll sit on phone books.
We're gonna
next
get you, we're gonna get you some phone books, get you a booster. Put you up at our level. Okay, anyway, this has been on the homemakers list since 2006, is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
And have there just been 0 applications or ones that weren't sustainable?
There
Or
was
one-
one in 2011.
Okay.
And the applicant at that time had a couple years to develop the property and couldn't pull it off. And so we went back to square one on it. But yeah, it's sort of a difficult little piece to develop and
gotcha.
sort of challenging there.
Okay, so, and it's only, is the whole parcel 75 foot by 150? It's pretty,
Yes,
it's pretty
yes.
small.
Yes.
Okay, all right, well, I'm glad that after all this time that someone has stepped forward, and they'll have like a year-ish to make the project move forward.
Yes, the Homemakers Committee, reviews the application, approves it, and gives them time. There is a process for an extension, should they run into some delays. But we try to keep tight tabs on, keeping the developer to their word and timeline.
Okay, well, I'm hopeful that this one will work out after it's been sitting there all this time.
Oh, yes.
Thank you.
And I will offer this, some of you remember Po Boy. He was a frequent speaker at council, and this is where his store and his property was. I remember 20 years ago walking that site with Po Boy, and so it's good not only to have that piece developed for affordable housing, but to know that, some of Po Boy's dreams are still being fulfilled here.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Kinsey.
Thank you. And I was going to add that Mr. Brown definitely was was a huge advocate in the Black community. He actually had a little store at one point on that property, and absolutely was a staple at council meetings and commission meetings when he was alive. And so I look forward to meeting the developers to see if there's some way that they might can do a little something to honor him there. Thank you.
Councilwoman Thomas.
Yes, I remember poor boy Brown as well, and he added a lot to the council meetings, and I say that sincerely. He was always engaged, and he was a source of information, and if he can see us, I hope he's smiling, and I think he would be heartwarmed to know that that property is going to be used as it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries.
11L is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an amendment to an agreement with the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation to increase the funding amount by $20,000 for a new total contract amount not to exceed $150,000 for fiscal year 2023-2024 to be used for costs associated with the 2 annual training conferences and to provide additional professional training for ICAC task force affiliates, and to further amend the agreement so as to exercise the first option to extend the terms for 1 additional year under the same conditions, including the original funding amount of $130,000 for the first extension period.
Move to approve.
Motion and a second. Any comments or questions? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
12A is an ordinance amending Chapter 4, Article 2, Section 4-69 of the Knoxville City Code so as to modify the self-service beer permit requirements for businesses subject to hotel occupancy taxes.
Move to approve.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion or questions? All those in favor, please say aye. Oh, Councilmember Roberto.
Just just wanted to hear a little bit more about what we're doing here.
I'm going to defer to Mr. Frost. He and Mr. Byrd brought this request to me because there was difficulty for one particular applicant, a hotel that had offered self-serve, which is an ordinance. Mr. Frost will refresh our memories, but some of us on council post passed early in our tenure, so it's been a few years now.
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember Ryder. Very briefly, the self-serve ordinance was crafted to allow a business to come into the old city. Under the traditional business method, you have a bartender or a waiter or waitress that serves your beer. This business that opened in the old city, you wore a wristband with a chip in it where you could pour your own drinks. And because it was a different business model and it wasn't allowed under the ordinance then, we wrote an ordinance that would allow it. And there were certain regulations that applied depending on the number of customers they had on the premises to how many people that had to be servers to monitor everything to make sure the beer was not being drunk by those who should not be drinking it. Well, motels have started to want to put in the self-service equipment, and the numbers in the ordinance would essentially prevent that. It was, you would have to have a server for every 25 members of the public on the premises. Well, if you have a hotel or a motel, you sure hope that they have more than 25 members of the public on the premise. Though they could probably be on the hotel different floors, but not actually in the area where the beer was going to be drunk. So we modified it to the number applies to the defined lobby area where the persons or people are drinking the beer. So this just simply allows responsible monitored consumption within the defined lobbies of hotels and motels.
So there will be a defined space in the lobby where the self-service is going on, and then there will be a responsible party who is making sure that people aren't over-serving themselves, because there's no electronic turn-off.
No, in the risk, there is a cutoff. You are limited, I think it's a total of 26 ounces, if I recall correctly. And they have to, and the beer dispensing equipment has to be in the regular sight line of someone who has been trained.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure we weren't opening ourselves up to having a lot of unsupervised, folks who are overindulging and then potentially getting in the vehicle and driving, so.
Right, and you also have to serve the beer in a cup that is unique, that only beer is supposed to be put in.
And with the one, I know it's a different subject matter because we're talking about hotels versus, the establishment, which is more of like a restaurant bar area, but have we had any issues with over-serving at the one facility that has this in place now?
Not that I'm aware of.
I wasn't aware of any either. I just wanted to make sure that those protections seem to be working. Okay, thank you.
Councilwoman Ryder.
Yeah, I will just out myself and say, first off, I cannot remember anything in our reports from KPD that there have been any at Poor. Is that our only establishment, Mr. Frost, that you're aware of that has that?
I think there might be two
That
have it, and
But there's
there's
similar model?
similar model.
Okay. And I will just say, it does cut you off. You go up and it doesn't give you any more when you hit it, and then you have to go turn it in. So I would say, we could talk about what the pros and the cons are of a motel or a hotel, but what I would say is it runs the chance, I'm assuming this is probably part of a competitive thing for them competing with like Airbnb and stuff, but I'd say the majority of folks would be there, they would be guests, and they won't be driving and going places. So on that note, that model is a better thing. Because I will say, some of our rules and regulations about beer, particularly some discussions I've had with different people wanting to do festivals or little events, when we encourage those all to be like downtown and in special places, what we're saying is you have to go to these locations to have these street fairs and you drink and consume, and then you can drive home. Whereas we do have requests from people to do them in smaller places that are in our communities where people can walk and not get into a car and transport themselves, or hopefully take an Uber or a taxi. So those are all good things. And this is not related to this agenda item particularly, but since you brought it up earlier, Mr. Roberto, or Councilman Roberto, I am going to have a conversation with Metro Drug Coalition. Mr. Johnson brought to my attention the beer fund money that we have. Former Councilman Wallace did have conversations with MTC, and there was an ordinance change to start working with them to spend some of those monies on education and that would be related to alcohol abuse and supporting that. And I'm going to continue those conversations with them and pick that up because it kind of fell away with Councilman Wallace, I believe. And we just haven't spent the money with them to support that. So we might be able to help them and do that and spend that money in that way to support some more education activities.
Thank you. Any other discussion or questions? All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
12B is an ordinance to close an unnamed alley from East Depot Avenue to East Magnolia Avenue as it runs within City Block 07222 and authorizing the mayor to execute quick claim deeds to the adjacent property owners, 6th District.
Move to approve.
We have a motion and a second. Councilwoman McKenzie.
Thank you. Do we have the applicant here? If you could come to the podium, please. Hello, you have to state your name and address for the record.
Marwan Saliba, 9022 Linksview Drive, Knoxville, Tennessee, 37922.
All right, thank you for being here. So in looking at the packet, so currently this alley is used to just park cars in?
The alley, I own the two adjacent properties to the alley, and the only thing I can speak for is the alley is used for drug use. It's littered with homeless people, garbage. The other day, I was doing some cleaning and killing some weeds, only to find some heroin needles. I got photos of them. And, on the top side of the alley, on the north side of it, the Magnolia side, yes, there are cars parked in it, in the alley. So, yes, the alley obviously is being used for, just parking some cars in it, and along with a bunch of homeless people, just doing what homeless people do, use drugs, I guess, and, just litter the place with garbage.
What are your plans, sir, if this is approved?
I really don't have any specific plans that I can share with you. It depends. I'm open. The block in itself has been an issue. The block it's about a 1.5 to 1.3 quarters of an acre. And it's, you get 6 properties in 1.5 acres, deeming it really useless in today's world to develop in quarter-acre increments. I was able to acquire half the block, and so now we can do something with that block. And my goal is, like I said, I don't have anything specific standing here today. I'm open for suggestions. I'm talking to developers. Worst case scenario before the stadium comes up, I would like the bottom half, the south part of the block cleaned up, which is my part, which is literally half the block. I would love to get it cleaned up and maybe turn it, if there's no development opportunity, maybe turn it into a paid parking lot. Let it be run by SP Plus. That would help the city in parking. It would be the closest parking to the new stadium. I'm only like 150 yards away from it. That's the worst case scenario. Otherwise, maybe a small complex with rooftop seating, retail stores underneath, something similar. That's my vision for it. But like I said, I don't have anything specific on any of those things. But the worst case scenario, it will be a parking lot, hopefully, assuming it gets approved, and get it cleaned up.
Okay. You'd mentioned that, there's a lot of homeless people in that area, a lot of drug use. Are you planning to secure it in any way that would mitigate some of that, or lighting or something of that nature?
All that stuff is absolutely possible. I will do my best to make sure it's a well-lit. It will be managed by SP Plus. I already have Performa from SP Plus. I've discussed it with Charles. I'm sure you guys have worked with him before. It will be done right through the city's approvals, of course. But yeah, if it needs to be lit, it will be lit up. But I'd like to get it cleaned up before the new stadium comes up. I mean, that whole block is really, it's pretty embarrassing what's 150 yards from that stadium, considering what's being spent down there.
Right. Well, I'm telling you, it won't be embarrassing once that stadium's open, because everyone's going to be capitalizing on the existing property, those types of things.
Of course.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
And then I only have 42 seconds, not for you, sir. I also noticed that there is an abutting property owner that's facing Magnolia who was not in agreement to the closure. Did he give, can anyone speak to that gentleman's reasoning why he was not in favor of it? Is he using that alley for some purpose, or can anyone answer that question? It was just noted here. He refused to sign the form or something, and
I wasn't involved in those discussions. I think the applicant reached out to them and had a discussion about that. And I know that those property owners, or that property owner, is storing vehicles in the, it's really an undeveloped
so
alley
that's
right
why.
now.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, thank you.
Councilwoman Ryder.
Yes, I would like to ask the applicant, because I'm looking at what Councilwoman McKenzie is referring to. Yes, sir. Yes, sorry. I didn't understand. Yeah, it says here, Councilwoman McKenzie just referred to that, you had a call that you initiated with your neighboring property owner What was their reason for not wanting to close the alley?
I spoke with Peter, the guy that owns Africa Motors, and Sam, I think the gentleman that owns the pet clinic. Peter's objection was he did not want the alley closed because he wants to build. Peter owns, if you look at the block, he owns about a quarter of an acre going down Randolph, and the other side, which is a little bit bigger, and I would guess it's about a half an acre. He does not want it closed because he wants to build a hotel on the half an acre. How do you build a hotel on half an acre and park and all that stuff? Where on the left side, he wants to do a restaurant. Impossible. Sam's objection was he wants to keep it open for the fire department in case there's a fire. The alley is 8 feet wide, maybe 9 max. I measured it myself. It's 8 or 9 feet wide, and he wants to keep it just for, totally illogical to me, like fire trucks running through an 8, 9 foot alley. I mean, it's, none of it made sense, but those were their objections.
Okay, appreciate the further explanation.
Of course, thank you for asking.
Thank you.
Any other questions or discussion? Have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries.
12C is an ordinance to close an unnamed alley from McNutt Road to Sevierville Pike as it runs within City Block 29900 and authorizing the mayor to execute quitclaim deeds to the adjacent property owner's first district.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion or questions? Councilwoman McKenzie?
Oh.
Oh, it's okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
J is an ordinance to change the base zoning classification of property located at 4657 Old Broadway from IMU District to CG1 District. Jimmy Bernaeus, applicant, 5th District.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion or questions? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
12K is an ordinance to change the base zoning classification of property located at 1405 Ricard Drive from O District to RN1 District, leaving all special purpose and overlay districts unchanged. Manuel Cardoza, applicant, 5th District.
Move to approve.
We have a motion and a second. Councilmember Thomas? No? Okay. Any other discussion or questions? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
12L is an ordinance to change the base zoning classification of property located at 618 Hollywood Road from RN1 District to RN2 District. Jason C. Wright, applicant, 6th District.
Motion and a second. Any question or discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
12M is an ordinance to add the H District zoning classification to a portion of property located at 810 Clinch Avenue, leaving the base zoning classification unchanged. Catherine Greer, applicant, 6th District.
Move to approve.
Motion and a second. Any discussion or questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, I believe that's our agenda thus far. Now comes public forum. We have 4 speakers who have signed up to speak. If you come to the podium, please state your name and address for the record, and you'll have up to 5 minutes to speak and address council. First person signed up to speak is Kunal Pradhan.
Kunal Pradhan, 1445 Charlottesville Boulevard, Knoxville, Tennessee, 37922. Dear esteemed Knoxville City Council, I'm representative from the organization Global Thrombosis Forum. I'm here on behalf of a proclamation for the city of Knoxville, Tennessee, with the goal to proclaim the month of July 2024 and the month of July every year hereafter as Thrombosis Awareness Month. Vedanshi Kumar, Kirti Chakravarti, and myself, Kunal Pradhan, are equally credited for this proposition. Global Thrombosis Forum, or GTF, is a nonprofit organization that is dedicated to spreading awareness of thrombosis. Thrombosis is a life-threatening condition characterized by the formation of blood clots within the circulatory system. Our mission is to raise awareness and implement preventive measures to ensure the safety of the citizens in Knoxville, Tennessee. In order to fully understand the risk of thrombosis, I will share a few statistics. 1 death occurs every 6 minutes due to blood clots, and the number of deaths due to blood clots far exceeds the total number of deaths due to traffic accidents, breast cancer, and AIDS combined. According to the CDC, 900,000 people are impacted by thrombosis every year in the United States. Let that sink in. There are many different types of thrombosis. However, I'll be focusing on deep vein thrombosis, myocardial infarction, pulmonary embolism, and brain stroke. First, deep vein thrombosis. It occurs when a vein in the body is injured or the blood is slow moving. This can completely or partially block the passage of blood in the vein. Although this is not life-threatening, the clots have the potential to break free and travel throughout the bloodstream, which leads to a pulmonary embolism. Symptoms of this are pain, swelling, or redness in the arm or leg. PE, or pulmonary embolism, is a sudden blockage in the lung arteries. It is caused by a traveling blood clot, usually from the deep vein of the leg, and this clot breaks off and travels to the lungs. This restricts blood flow to the lungs and affects oxygen levels and increases blood pressure. This is a medical emergency and can result in a heart attack, lung damage, or even death. Symptoms are sudden shortness of breath, chest pain, anxiousness, dizziness, lightheadedness, fainting, or irregular heartbeat. Next, myocardial infarction, or commonly referred to as a heart attack, occurs when one or more areas of the heart muscle is unable to receive enough oxygen. This is caused by the blockage of blood flow to the heart muscle, which could die without sufficient blood flow and can lead to heart damage or death. Symptoms are chest pain, shortness of breath, sweating, nausea, or vomiting. And next, a brain stroke, which is caused by insufficient blood flow to the brain. This can lead to brain damage or death. Symptoms are numbness or weakness of the face, arm, or leg, sudden confusion, trouble speaking or common understanding, or trouble seeing in one or both eyes. Although these 4 types of thrombosis are terrifying, there are numerous ways to prevent and avoid them. Some of these ways include staying hydrated, keeping toes pointed up during flights, wearing compression stockings, exercising regularly, changing positions often during a long plane or car ride, not standing or sitting for more than 1 hour at a time, limit alcohol and quitting smoking, and most importantly, being aware of your family history. If a family member has suffered from any type of blood clot, see a doctor to detect thrombosis at an early stage. These methods create minor lifestyle changes, however, they have the potential to save you or someone else's life. Other treatments of thrombosis include thrombosis therapies, like the anticoagulant therapy, which medications such as heparin and warfarin are prescribed to prevent the blood from clotting. Thrombolytic therapy, which existing blood clots are dissolved using thrombolytics, such as a tissue plasminogen activator. And finally, compression therapy, where compression stockings and sleeves are used to improve blood circulation in the arm and legs, which decreases the chances of thrombosis. In summary, GTF is dedicated to the urgent need of thrombosis awareness and prevention. With your help, we would like to educate the citizens of the city of Knoxville, Tennessee on the risks and preventive measures of blood clots, as well as empowering your citizens to commit basic lifestyle changes in order to decrease their risk of obtaining the condition. Thank you so much for your time and attention today, and for more information, please visit our website.
Thank you. All right, the next speaker signed up is Ms. Vivian Scheib.
Good evening, Vivian Scheib, 503 Longview Road, Apartment F, Knoxville, 37919. I've come with 3 issues that I want you to consider. I know that Mr. Du Bois is talking about keeping folks housed. Never more has this been more critical in our city than right now. But there are 3 areas that when we are considering what we're needing to do about keeping folks housed, that we need to change our mindset on. Number 1 that I want you to think about is child care. We are in a serious crisis in Knoxville, Tennessee. We have got to have childcare for those that want to work. Our 2020 census showed over 10,000 children under the age of 5. I know when I had my child, I couldn't even buy a new car until after she got out of childcare. So we've got to understand that when we're looking at funding and we're doing all these different things to do housing that ties to employment, you can't go to work if you can't afford childcare. If you're a two-parent family, one got to stay home because if you got more than one child, you're paying out thousands of dollars. So when we're looking at housing and how we change how we do things, let's talk about the childcare. The second thing I want to talk to you about is work for 14-year-olds. I know you're doing a youth survey right now. I want you to understand that one of the questions that was not on that survey that when they're developing is, you're asking these children all kinds of questions. Why don't you ask them, if I had the opportunity, would I be able to work? We let these kids go out here. They're very talented. They can work. We need to change our mindset. Our hands are full with all this technology. They're filling their time with things they don't need to be able to do. We need them to be able to work. So think about that. I know years ago, I worked CAC. I was 12, 13, 14 years old. Put our children to work. Give them something. Give them an opportunity to step up. The third thing I want you to think about, that someone and many people have approached me in the community, is that housing. When you're talking about housing, you got to remove the barrier for those who are former felons. KCDC, any of our housing programs, they have done their time. They have paid their fees. Now, if God says he will forget as far as the east is from the west, we must too give these people an opportunity who have been in jail or been in prison. Give them the opportunity to take away any barriers that you can't have housing in these kind of programs if you've ever been in jail or been in prison. If we're going to house everybody. But those three critical areas going forward, we have got to address. Thank you.
Thank you. Next signed up is Greg Duthie. Mr. Duthie?
Greg Duthie, 206 Hinton, North Knoxville, Councilwoman Ryder's district. The districts always change, and I want to talk about a couple things tonight. I want to show everyone this. It's my little black book. The little black book historically has got a bad rap, was associated and connotated with certain things, but this is the good little black book. It's actually a little larger. I decided to get organized in my involvement with improving our city and being able to keep track of things instead of writing them on paper. Now I write it in a little black book. So I wanted to revisit and ask council, mayor, vice mayor, to reconsider the placement of more than one Welcome to Knoxville sign. Originally, I spoke about a year ago about putting one somewhere along Alcoa Highway since it welcomes a lot of travelers who come from the airport. But if we put 4 of them on the east, west, and on the north side and the south side, we'd have probably 4 different council members who could consider that for the future and welcoming people who come through our city. I wanted to talk about codes. Usually when we talk about codes, people are upset because somebody sent them a codes letter. Probably someone in here, like me, over the 30-plus years I've lived here, I got a codes letter for my lawn that was overgrown while I was out of town. I've had the privilege of working with Kathy Sanchez, and I hope our Public Service Director, Chad Weth, will pass along these compliments. Kathy's been working with me on some issues. I've found her to be professional, a good communicator, flexible, and I would encourage anyone in the city who gets a codes letter to try to work with these people. They will work with you. If you ignore them, if you're mean to them, don't expect the best results. Also wanted to personally thank Chad Weth for his continued effort and Tracy Berry and a few other codes officers on some issues in the Central Avenue corridor, particularly over in the Springdale area. There's been a lot of problems with garbage and drug needles and homeless folks, and the public service folks who actually go out and do that should be commended for their persistence, politeness, and thoroughness. So thank you, Chad and your crew. Chief Noel, I wanted to compliment a couple officers. I won't go into the details, but one of the female officers, Officer Leeper, Officer Schwartz, I had a chance to talk with them. Officer Matina worked particularly a few weeks ago in reuniting 2 children with the mother, who I happen to know from McDonald's, and all of them did a nice job. And I would encourage our public, like I did tonight, when you see officers, thank them. Catch them being positive, okay? There were 7 officers out in that lobby, and when I walked in tonight, I thanked them for their service. I hope I can challenge more people to do that. We've got a lot of great officers on staff, so thank you. Also wanted to mention to our fire chief, Sharp, I like what you guys do. I'm not there when the fires are going on, but I do notice things. About a month ago, you had some of your vehicles over there at Green Magnet, I think it was, or Sarah Moore Green. And I like what they're doing in educating our children on the importance of fire prevention and things of that sort. Finally, our 311 folks. Can anyone guess about how many calls a typical 311 person like Vasant, Ryan, Grace, Kelly, Trish, and Renee, I know them all by name, they know me, the Yankee voice, I call them quite a bit. And one of the things that I had the chance to talk to them about was they wish, even though they get 120 to 170 calls a person per day, they wish more of the city was invested and aware in their neighborhoods, not just their neighborhoods, but all neighborhoods. So I ask folks, when you call them, be polite, be nice, but maybe more importantly, if you see something going on in your neighborhood and you have an elderly person that can't cut their lawn, go over and try to help them. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Duthie. Last speaker for the night is Mr. Bentley Marlowe. Mr. Marlowe, you'll have up to 5 minutes.
Bentley Marlowe, 322 Douglas Avenue, 37921. I'll piggyback on that and thank the chief and the officers. I had a need for the officers a week and a half ago. Fast response, very professional as always, and handled the issue. Great job, guys. Also, Chad this week helped me out of a pickle. Had a wrecked trailer, needed to get it emptied up at the transfer station. It was overweight, and he allowed me to do it because it was far safer to limp the trailer 3 blocks up to the transfer station than try to make the trip out to the landfill, so I appreciate that. I'm actually here because I'm in further talks with Lindsay Crockett and Amy over the missing middle in the application. It's come to my attention something that I don't read into the code and never actually contemplated, and certainly is not anywhere in the Optico's books or reports. But we are apparently not allowed to build a missing middle structure on the same lot that has a single-family home. So if you're familiar, I know that we're getting in the weeds here, but if you have a residential lot zoned RN3, RN4, which is eligible for missing middle, base zoning allows you to have multiple structures. So in one particular case, I have a lot with historic home on it that I would like to remain a single-family home, and I'd like to simply add a missing middle housing type on that lot. And I'm being told that I cannot. And the unintended consequences of something like that could lead to these single-family existing homes being demolished simply because the economics are, well, if I can put 2 duplexes on this lot, or I would rather get rid of that single-family home, or I could suffice to just leave the single-family home if I could just add a duplex. So I would urge us to take a look at that. We all said that the zoning code is an evolving and living, breathing thing. I think that's something that needs to be looked at sooner rather than later, because it may end up dooming this 120-year-old house on my lot to demolition when I can economically save it as it is. And I don't think we intended for that. The other thing that I'm struggling with, going back and forth. We wrote into the missing middle it's very clearly called a front setback, but then we included language that says plus or minus 5 feet. I don't understand where a plus or minus comes from in a setback. That's something you might see in a build to line, and the way it's now being interpreted is that if the building isn't up to the setback line, then it can't be built. And again, on this particular project, I'm trying to save the existing 120-year-old structure and a mature pecan tree, both of which I think are things that we prioritize as a city. Our tree canopy study, our tree plan, we got this historic stuff, we have the demolition delays, we have historic zoning commission. All of this is not working together with missing middle, and I think there needs to be a cohesive method that this can all work together, and this is yet again something that I think that we need to look at. Because I think that as long as a structure on the lot meets the setback, and I think it's hard to argue that a 120-year-old house that's been there this entire time is somehow not characteristic of the setback of the neighborhood, I think we ought to be able to add a missing middle housing type, and if we're trying to save a tree, it means that the missing middle housing type is behind that structure. I don't see why that's a problem. In fact, I kind of think that the block face looks more cohesive and historically accurate if the new structure is off the block face and kind of out of view, just utilizing a very deep lot. If anybody's curious, you could look it up. It's 1216 Callaway. Those are just my thoughts on how the missing middle is currently being interpreted and how I think it's differing from what we all discussed, or at least the way I interpret and read what's written and passed, everything that was discussed at the open houses, the workshops, et cetera. So I would urge you to take a look at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Marlowe. That concludes public forum. Therefore, this meeting is adjourned.